Hello, everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 review. Today we have a great little fantasy design submission by Jaguar. This is Phototrophian. So this one came out a couple of months ago, so I'm still catching up on this, and it's a great fantasy, sort of grounded in realism design. The idea of the park is in a future where the architecture of the built environment is more integrated in with the environmental conditions of the world around it. So you'll see a lot of these buildings that blend into the landscaping, and conservation efforts, and various plants, animals, things like that. And the entire park is supposedly designed to be self-sufficient. So you'll see like solar panels and wind turbines and all sorts of stuff like that. It's a pretty cool, detailed design, and I think there's a lot to look at here. So we can jump on in. So the main portion of the park is built around this suspended coaster, and this coaster, you may actually recognize the layout. This is one that Robbie92 built for the New Element Design Challenge number 5, I believe. So it's using the same layout as that, and then themed and integrated into this whole area. And actually, I think it was done very well, because it really feels like the coaster was built for this park. It really doesn't feel like it was a stock design that was themed around. It almost feels like this is built simultaneously with the rest. So you've got this great first half with a couple of these pretty fast helixes and corners. Loving this little corner right in here into this array of rock work. Hitting that second lift hill. Then heading off for this big drop around this, I don't even know what it is. It's a super tree is what it's called. It kind of reminds me of something you'd see at the park at Marina Bay Sands in Singapore. This great tower with all these cool plants and hanging things coming off of it. You got this great dive here, kind of reminiscent of Big Bad Wolf at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. A couple of these fast corners here, and then a wrap around to the finish. So a great coaster, and definitely integrated very well. I like the use of the older style support work here. Definitely has that beefiness that you expect from a suspended coaster. But to be honest, the coaster here is probably the least interesting thing on the map, just because there's so much more cool stuff. So let's take a look. We'll start kind of down here, I guess. And I really just love this flowing roof support as it comes over this big open space. I mean, you can see it's just a giant kind of wide span open space. You got these great little ceiling fans up underneath. I haven't seen that object used in a while. But the glass here with the green tint to it, and then the grasses throughout the whole thing. Really hard to tell where the roof starts and stops and where the landscape takes over. And I mean, that's the point. If you read the readme that came with this, it's kind of the idea behind it is nature and architecture blending into one. Up above here, you do have the little car ride here. This is the pollinators ride, and I love how it just integrates in and around the space. And you have these curved layers of monorail track here that are used as the various elevated gardens, and really provides for a nice kind of layering effect for the ride to come through. You get all the striations in the rock work also. It's, I mean, frankly, a little bit messy, and I think that was one of the criticisms that I saw from a number of folks on commenting about the park, but I feel like it's acceptable since the whole thing carries the same aesthetic. It's not like it's messy in one area and not the other. I feel like it is a coordinated mess, where maybe mess isn't the right word. It's more chaotic almost, with the amount of just different colored and different textured rocks in here. You've got this sort of hanging mist almost above the water, which I really like. I think it's a cool look. It's a cool design. Here's some of those energy producing elements here with the fans, little towers. Love this carousel here, sitting up over top of the bumper car building. So it's kind of like building carried over, and then this queue line that's up underneath behind the glass, up that's underneath of the pathway up here. This architecture may be more of the weaker stuff throughout it. I think it certainly pales in comparison to some of this just really super cool integrated stuff. But you have some neat little towers here. This big tower itself and a little silo on here. Um, Really just super cool to see the structure here. You take away the scenery and it's just all flat. I mean, really, all the scenery here is what's giving it this great topography and just landscape in general. Using some weird tree choices like these kind of fern-looking plants and this kind of some of these bigger, bushier things. Uh, Looks good, and a lot of these plants usually don't look good in the game. So I think there's a lot of things to be said there. This cave is super cool with the stalactites hanging down, the waterfall inside, and just seeing all the striations along the back here. Um, it's a pretty cool way to do that. It doesn't look too forced since there's all the diagonals and inclined elements on here, so it doesn't necessarily look like it's too much of a forced element. Well, let's spin around and we have some more pretty cool things like this great bridge that comes across. Have the grass and plants carried over the water just as well as the people are. And then the station itself, you can almost not tell what structure, what landscape, what's built around it. So the whole roof here has a big tree growing out of the top of it, and there's this green landscape, the rocks and everything, and then these various little levels of monorail track again. Seeing the scenery, lattice supports coming out to support the coaster, I think are pretty cool design there. And then this waterfall that falls down right over the track. So I guess theoretically you're going to get a little soaked when you ride this, at least in the front seat. Kind of a neat look there. All the birds and butterfly scenery flying up overhead. Some more actual structural things rather than landscape. It's kind of interesting to see because there's a lot of this kind of building where it's a full integration of landscape and building versus some of these other things like this one here that's just a building, but it still is presented in sort of that same abstract way. This bridge is cool. You can barely see it in here, but you get the little archway underneath and then this lattice structure across. A lot to see there. I think one of the drawbacks of so much integration is that you can't really read the buildings itself, or the buildings themselves. So, like, let's take this one here in the middle. I can see this and a lower basement type structure here that's got a little patio, and then we have another level here with this waterfall coming down. It looks like that's the entry level on this side, but then you've got these couple of rings on top, this like dome thing, the coaster going around it. It's just a little hard to read, and that's not necessarily a negative thing per se, but it's just tough to fully pick out all the different features of it. Another great bridge here. You can see this one a little bit better than the last. That's pretty cool. There's a pedal cycle ride here. This is the Botanical Garden bikes, and if you do take them through, you can actually see they pump through this little glass botanical gardens. Love this little green-white checker thing. I actually don't know what scenery piece that is, but it's cool looking. You circle around, and we've got another cave over here with some of these cool, like, crystal shard things. Elevator coming up and down, and I really actually like this cable car that just loops around. That's supposedly the elevator motor and cables. I actually think that's pretty clever. I don't recall having seen that before. Have a nice little tower ride right here, kind of a standard thing. Almost feels a little bit odd sitting in here and off-center within the circle, but you know, why not? Good view of the whole thing. I love this skyway made out of the coaster track that the guests can take over top of the whole thing. And just the unexpected bits like this little stall here that's just not themed, but it fits because it kind of has that little detailed aesthetic, not necessarily Asian throughout the rest of it, but that layered roof effect, the earth tone colors and things like that. It's a little hard to read throughout some of the center areas, but you have another area covered over here with glass. This sort of botanical gardens feel to it again in this space. some of these kind of looks like a water garden, perhaps, through this whole area with a lot of great floating plants and scenery pieces, and just these little waterfalls throughout that kind of culminate in a larger waterfall off the edge into the larger expanse. Whether this is a lake or an ocean, don't quite know, but whatever it is, it certainly fits. Um, Great use of the flower lamps, which I really don't think I'd ever have said that, and don't really expect to again because they're awfully ugly lights, uh, awfully terrible lights. But they fit here. It's definitely the one place for it. This pathway I kind of enjoy just because of the way that it overhangs the rockwork around, and it's got this structure underneath that the guest isn't going to see, but I think is still nicely done, sort of a classy design. And then this glass that has all these color changes all the way around the thing. This building here feels Frank Lloyd Wright-esque, and I would have to imagine that's where the inspiration came from, just with some of the um, modular forms here, some of the rectangular projections, and all the little details throughout. But it's a really nice looking building. Um, Observation Point Pizza is what that houses. And one of the things, if you look down on the observation point, is you get this little shipwreck, which, according to the README, is kind of a reminder of the older times before landscape and or nature and buildings became more integrated and better focus on the environment. And then out here in the water, you've got a lot of cool stuff. You've got the turtles coming around. There's a manta ray over here. There's this submarine ride, which is the reef restoration exploration. There's a lot more about the theme through that sort of a thing. I like this cove, how it sort of nestles this almost 180-degree waterfall element here. I think that's a pretty cool look for the whole thing. And then, of course, this tower, which we touched on earlier, just the structure is super cool. I like the way that all these little tentacles almost stick out and have a good reach around the whole area while not super obscuring everything. I think is a good thing. Um, but yeah, there's so much more detail you can actually look at as you get into some of these bits and pieces. And like I said, some of it's messy and some of it's a little hard to read. But I think getting in here and starting to pull apart all the various details and actually understand kind of what's being built is worth it, because there's a lot of really interesting, neat stuff in here, and I think it's very well done. So Jaguar's constructions are always kind of out there, definitely pushing the boundaries of object selection and just composition and all sorts of other fun things. And they're not always my favorite, I'll be honest. I'm usually the straight line realism guy, but I think this is great. This is my favorite thing that he's ever built, I want to say. And I think the aesthetic is super pretty. I would love to see this done almost on a larger scale, although it'd almost have to be a little cleaner just to not be so overwhelming with the density of details. But man, it sure is pretty, and I think it's done incredibly well. So get the download, check it out, go explore it for yourself and see what there is to see. But I hope you enjoy it if you do get a chance to look. That's all for today, but we'll be back with more reviews, some hacking tutorials here coming up, and then this Saturday we will have an Angelic Amusement Academy. Not sure what the topic is yet, but there is a certain new track type that's out that I've been getting a lot of requests about, so maybe we'll feature that. Who knows? We will see. But until next time, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good day, guys.